She's not who you think she is, son." My mother's words echoed in my head like a warning I should have taken more seriously. But on the morning of Aurora Miles's birthday, I was too busy planning the perfect day to pay attention to anything else. "My name is Daxton Reed. I'm what the media calls a self-made tech billionaire, the founder of Arc Nova Industries. But that's just a label. Behind the headlines, I'm just a widowed father trying to hold it together for the one person who still matters more than anything. My daughter, Nora. Today was supposed to be the day everything changed. For months, Aurora had stood by my side, not as a trophy or gold digger like the tabloid suggested, but as someone who saw past the suits, the net worth, and the pain I still carried after losing my wife. She understood me. And more importantly, she loved Nora like her own, which is why I planned something unforgettable. She thought I'd forgotten her birthday, told her I had meetings all day. Her voice had cracked on the phone that morning when I said I couldn't make dinner. "It's okay," she whispered, trying to hide the disappointment. "I didn't expect anything." But what she didn't know was that while she was out with my sister, Clara, and my mother, Evelyn, I was orchestrating a surprise back at our penthouse, something that would prove, once and for all, that she belonged in this family. A white Tesla Model Y, parked and hidden beneath a velvet car cover in the garage. Plane tickets for 2 to Santorini, Aurora's dream destination, printed and tucked into a cream envelope. Reservations at Orchid, the rooftop restaurant that took 6 months to book. And then, the ring. Simple, elegant, just like her. I wasn't just giving her a birthday gift. I was proposing. But first, I needed Clara to keep her busy for 2 hours while I set everything in place. When I called her to confirm, her voice was smooth, rehearsed. "We'll be out until 6. Don't worry, little brother. I've got her exactly where you want her." I smiled. Standing in our penthouse kitchen, I laid the final ribbon on the dining table, next to Nora's card for Aurora. Something she'd handmade with glitter and far too much glue. My 12-year-old daughter had grown so close to Aurora. In many ways, Aurora was the first woman Nora had let into her heart since losing her mom. She even called her Ro sometimes. This wasn't just a proposal, it was a turning point. By 5:45, everything was ready. I stepped into the private elevator that led directly to the 48th floor, heart pounding. I couldn't wait to see her face. But when the doors opened, everything unraveled in an instant. There, in the middle of our marble-floored terrace, stood my mother, my daughter Nora, and my sister Clara, soaked, head to toe, in brown, grimy, foul-smelling water. White dresses ruined, hair dripping, Nora shivering, and standing above them, Aurora, holding an empty glass pitcher. For a second, time stopped. Nora's lip trembled. Evelyn clutched her chest in dramatic agony. Clara shouted something I couldn't hear. Aurora turned, her eyes wide with shock as she saw me. "Daxton, wait, I didn't hear the rest." Because everything I had prepared, every moment of joy I had planned, turned into the ugliest image I could have imagined. The woman I loved standing over the people I loved most, holding the weapon that had just humiliated them. And that's when the rage kicked in. "What the hell is going on here?" My voice echoed across the glass walls and stone columns. The birthday, the car, the ring, all of it was forgotten. What happened next changed everything. "I never thought I'd be telling this story," I said as I stood there, staring at the shattered image of the life I had tried to build. But to understand why she was standing there, and why I reacted the way I did, you need to know what came before that day. 5 years ago, I was a different man. I wasn't Daxton Reed, Forbes cover star, or the tech visionary who built a 5-BO'd empire before 40. I was a broken husband, clutching the hand of a dying woman. Ava wasn't just my wife. She was my best friend, my co-founder, the mother of my child. The kind of woman who made you feel like home was a person, not a place. We met in college. both broke, both dreaming. She studied biomedical engineering. I coded every night between ramen dinners. We built Ark Nova in a garage, raised Nora on energy drinks and bedtime stories, and made it through 7 years of chaos and creation together. But cancer didn't care about effort, or equity, or even love. Ava was diagnosed on a rainy Wednesday. Stage 4, terminal. The world stopped, but the clock didn't. 8 months later, she was gone. She died in my arms, whispering the same words every time she was lucid. "Promise me you'll protect our daughter, and promise me you'll live, Daxton. Really live." I broke the first promise, and I ran from the second. After her funeral, I became someone else. A machine in a suit. I buried myself in work. I scheduled grief like it was a conference call. I locked every emotion into an internal server that no one else could access. And Nora, my sweet, brilliant, too mature for her age daughter, was left with a shell of a man. She never complained, never acted out. But some nights I'd hear her whisper to her stuffed rabbit, "Daddy doesn't smile anymore." It took almost 3 years before I met Aurora Miles. A quiet morning, a forgotten prescription, a sleepy Nora, and a small community pharmacy on the corner of 8th and Langston. I hadn't expected much, just antibiotics and silence. But then I met the pharmacist with the warm voice, tired eyes, and kindness that didn't feel rehearsed. She didn't flinch at my name, didn't ask for a photo or an investment pitch. Instead, she asked Nora if she liked to draw. And when Nora smiled and pulled out a crumpled sketch of a dragon, Aurora said, "I think that dragon's got a secret. You should write its story." It was the first time I saw Nora light up in months, and it was the first time someone treated me like a man. Not a headline. Over the next few weeks, I found myself returning to that pharmacy for no real reason. Vitamins, Band-Aids, questions I already knew the answers to. Aurora never flirted, never tried to impress. She just listened. She told me about her dream of starting a network of clinics in underserved neighborhoods, how she had put herself through pharmacy school with scholarships, side jobs, and zero help. She wanted to build something for people, not profit. I admired that, maybe more than I should have. When I finally asked her to dinner, it wasn't smooth. I tripped over my words. She laughed, said yes anyway. We didn't talk about my money or her business. We talked about Nora, about grief, about books, about silence. Over time, Aurora became more than a date. She became Nora's safe space, the woman who remembered her favorite storybooks, who taught her to make herbal tea when she couldn't sleep, who never tried to be her mother, but never made her feel motherless either. And somewhere in that slow, quiet, healing chaos, I started to believe Ava's last wish was possible. That maybe I could live again, that maybe I could love again. But not everyone believed that second chances were meant to happen, especially not the 2 women who had controlled every part of my life since Ava's death. My mother, Evelyn, and my sister, Clara. They didn't say much at first, but the way they watched Aurora, like they were waiting for her to slip, should have been my first warning. Instead, I ignored it, because love makes you blind, and sometimes it makes you deaf to the people who are crying out for help. Even when it's your own daughter, love makes you blind, but sometimes the people closest to you sharpen the knife you don't even know is about to cut you. As things deepened with Aurora, my world began to feel full again. Nora smiled more. I smiled more. There were dinners that ended in laughter, school science projects that turned into flower-covered chaos in the kitchen, lazy Sunday mornings with pancakes and music, and a warmth that hadn't existed in years. Aurora didn't try to replace Ava. She honored her memory. When Nora brought up her mom, Aurora listened, really listened. She didn't flinch, didn't get jealous, didn't look for a way to change the subject. She simply let Nora be Nora. That, more than anything, made me fall in love with her. So I did what people do when they're in love. I introduced her to my family. That was the beginning of everything unraveling. My mother, Evelyn, greeted Aurora with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Polite, pleasant, cold as steel wrapped in silk. She never said anything cruel. She didn't have to. Her disapproval hung in the air like expensive perfume, unmistakable and hard to escape. "She seems fine," she told me once. "I just hope she understands what kind of responsibility comes with being part of this family." Responsibility, as if loving my daughter and me was some kind of test. "And Clara, my sister?" She was more blunt. "Isn't it convenient?" she said one evening after dinner. "The billionaire widower just happens to fall for the sweet community pharmacist. It's a little hallmark, don't you think?" I wanted to believe they were just being protective, that they were still grieving Ava in their own ways, that maybe they just needed time. So I gave them time. I gave them chances. Too many chances? Then came the whispers, the suggestions, the quiet undermining. Suddenly, Aurora's ideas for Nora's school projects were too ambitious. Her cooking was a little too creative. Her presence at family dinners became a bit much. Evelyn started scheduling activities with Nora on weekends, without telling Aurora. Clara began dropping passive-aggressive comments about young women who chase status. Aurora, to her credit, never confronted them. But I saw it in her eyes. She was shrinking in a home she helped me rebuild. And I said nothing, because I didn't want to cause conflict. Because I was grateful for everything Evelyn and Clara had done after Ava died. Because I thought being silent kept the peace. But silence is a kind of betrayal, too. The tipping point came in November. Nora fell sick. At first, it was just dizziness and fatigue. But then came the fevers, the weakness, the loss of appetite. I was terrified. It brought me right back to Ava's final weeks. Every symptom like a phantom echo of what I'd already lost once. But this time, Aurora stepped up. She stayed home with Nora, cooked carefully balanced meals, monitored her vitals, tracked every change in a notebook like a doctor prepping for rounds, sat by her bed until Nora fell asleep, and again when she woke up. She was tireless and loving and calm, and Evelyn hated every second of it. "I should be the one taking care of her," she said on the third day. "Selma needs her grandmother, not a girlfriend playing nurse." "She's not playing anything," I snapped. "She's helping. She loves Nora." But Evelyn had already packed 2 suitcases and was at our front door. "I'm staying until Nora gets better." Clara followed 2 days later. That's when everything changed. Suddenly, Aurora was invisible. Evelyn took over Nora's meals, Clara oversaw her mental stimulation, and Aurora was left sitting outside the room she had once run with care. They made it look seamless, effortless, like they were the heroes Nora needed. And Aurora was the intruder. Aurora tried to be graceful. She offered to help, to support, to contribute. Every time she was met with the same patronizing tone. "We've got it. You've done enough. Why don't you rest?" It was her house, but she had no room. Her family, but she had no say. Her love, but suddenly no place to give it. And I told myself it was temporary. That once Nora recovered, things would return to normal. But I didn't see how much it was hurting Aurora, or Nora. And most of all, I didn't see that someone else was already planning how to tear everything apart. I should have seen it coming. Not the big betrayal, not yet. But the small fractures, the subtle shifts, the whispers behind closed doors. After 2 weeks of Nora being sick, Aurora was barely present in her own home. She'd gone from caregiver to ghost. Every time she tried to help, Clara had already handled it. Every meal Aurora prepared was too spicy, too bland, or not what Nora's used to. Every suggestion she made was brushed aside like static on a radio no one listened to. "You've done enough, dear," Evelyn would say, smiling without a hint of warmth. Go get some rest. And I was so consumed with Nora's health that I didn't realize what was really happening. That my mother and sister weren't just stepping in. They were edging Aurora out. Systematically, strategically, almost like they'd rehearsed it. At first, I thought Aurora was imagining things. Until one night, when I found her sitting alone in the guest room, her room now, apparently, staring at a photo of her and Nora from a few months back. Daxton, she said quietly, do you think I've done something to upset them? Who? I asked, though I already knew. Your mom, your sister. I feel like I'm being erased. I wanted to say something comforting, reassuring, but the words never came. Because deep down, I knew she wasn't wrong. Still, I told her what I thought would keep the peace. They just need time, that's all. They're protective. Aurora gave me a look I will never forget. It was the look of a woman who had been loyal, loving, and patient, and was now being asked to be invisible. I love you, Daxton. I love Nora like she's my own, but I'm not going to keep begging for space in a life I already helped rebuild. And with that, she went to bed without another word. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't have imagined, was that while I was losing Aurora by inches, my daughter was being silenced by miles. It started with interruptions. Every time Nora tried to talk to me, really talk, something came up. Evelyn would need help with Nora's medications. Clara would swoop in with a fun distraction. Or someone would magically remember a dentist appointment, a school form, a missed call. And like that, the moment would pass. I thought I was being pulled in every direction because of stress. What I didn't realize was that I was being redirected. On purpose. Nora, bless her heart, kept trying. Dad, can I tell you something about Aurora? Of course, sweetheart. Just let me finish this email. Daxton, we need to talk about the Q3 earnings report. Clara would interrupt. Right now. Again, and again, and again. Until one night, I found Nora sitting on the stairs, holding her sketchbook, eyes red-rimmed. I miss Ro, she said simply. She's still here, baby. Not really. Those two words hit me harder than any boardroom attack ever could. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could, Evelyn appeared in the hallway holding 2 cups of tea. Come on, sweetheart, she said to Nora. Let's get you into bed. Daddy's tired. Nora didn't look at me. She just nodded and followed Evelyn down the hallway. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Powerless. In my own home. With my own daughter. In the life I thought I had chosen. What I didn't know then, what I would later replay in my head 1,000 times, was that the trap was already being set. That somewhere in that house, a harmless-looking glass pitcher had been moved. That a bucket of water, once clean, would soon be anything but. That white clothes would be suggested for a family photo moment. And that Aurora, who had simply offered to help, would be handed the final piece of the puzzle, without knowing the picture she was about to complete. And me? I'd walk into the middle of it, unprepared, unaware, ready to propose to the woman I loved, only to find her standing over my family, holding the weapon someone else had filled. It was supposed to be her day, Aurora's birthday, and the day I planned to give her everything, the car, the trip, the ring, and most of all, my commitment to put us first. I had it all timed to perfection. I called Clara that morning. Can you keep her out of the penthouse for a couple hours? Already on it, she said. Spa, shopping, maybe a walk on the terrace later. Just say the word when it's go time. She sounded cheerful, supportive, excited. I believed her. Back at home, I lit the candles, set the table, laid out the surprise envelope with the Santorini tickets. The Tesla was in place downstairs, wrapped with a velvet red bow. My speech was memorized. And in my jacket pocket was the ring. When the clock hit 5:50 p.m., I stepped into the elevator, my chest buzzing with anticipation. Nora had drawn a little birthday card for Aurora, decorated with purple stars and a big "We love you." I was going to hand it to her myself, but when the elevator doors opened, my world ended. They were standing on the rooftop terrace, all dressed in white. My mother, my daughter, my sister, soaked in brown, murky water, hair clinging to their skin, clothes stained, Nora shaking from the cold. And in the middle of them all, Aurora, frozen, holding an empty pitcher. The scene was so surreal, my brain couldn't process it. It looked like a baptism gone wrong, a twisted celebration of humiliation. My mother gasped when she saw me. Clara flinched like she hadn't expected me yet. Nora burst into tears. Aurora turned slowly. Daxton, wait, I can explain. I didn't hear the rest. My body reacted before my brain could catch up. I ran to Nora, wrapping my arms around her. She was shivering, sobbing. Baby, are you okay? Are you hurt? My dress is ruined, she whimpered. I don't understand what just happened. I turned to my mother. She looked like a ghost. Hair matted, mascara running. She did it, Evelyn whispered. She just threw it at us. No warning. She said we didn't belong here anymore. Clara nodded, seething. She snapped. You should have seen her face, Dax. She's been waiting to do this. That's not true, Aurora cried. I didn't know, I thought… You thought what? I shouted. That this was funny? That you could throw filth on my mother and daughter and somehow what? Prove a point? She dropped the pitcher. The sound of it hitting the stone floor felt like a gavel slamming down on a verdict. It was a mistake. Someone told me to dump the water. Who? I snapped. Who told you to do that? She hesitated. Clara stepped forward like a prosecutor. You think she's going to admit it? She just tried to humiliate us on her birthday. How poetic, right? Evelyn clutched her chest. Nora wiped her face, looking at Aurora with betrayal. Even she didn't understand what had happened. And me? I saw the pitcher, the water, the white clothes, the stains, the tears. And I didn't ask questions. I didn't pause. I didn't listen. Get out! Aurora blinked. What? Get out of my house! Daxton, please! Now! I didn't care that it was cold. I didn't care that she was crying. I didn't care that she was still barefoot, standing on wet stone. I just wanted her gone. She stood there, shattered, before whispering. Someday, you'll realize the truth isn't always what it looks like. Then she turned and walked out of my life. No yelling, no defense. Just silence. I went back to my mother, to Clara, to Nora. I wrapped them in towels, guided them back inside. I told myself I was protecting my family, that Aurora had crossed a line no one could uncross. I told myself that, over and over again, but deep inside, something didn't add up. Not yet. Not clearly, but enough to keep me awake that night. Because for someone who just humiliated the people I love most, Aurora had looked more devastated than guilty. If guilt had a voice, it would sound like a child trying to speak, and never being heard. The night Aurora left, I couldn't sleep. Nora's uniform was still damp. Her sketchbook sat untouched on the couch. The birthday dinner was never eaten. And I was drowning in silence. I told myself I'd done the right thing, that I'd protected my daughter, my mother, my sister. But something was wrong, deeply wrong, because Aurora's final words wouldn't stop echoing. Someday you'll realize the truth isn't always what it looks like. Over the next few weeks, things seemed to return to normal. If you define normal as Evelyn running the house again, Clara smiling smugly like a plan had been executed, Nora going quieter and quieter every day. She was still kind, still helpful. But she was watching everything, every word, every glance, every silence. And I began to notice something new. She wasn't afraid of Aurora. She was afraid of Clara. I brushed it off at first. Until one night, I heard Nora's voice behind my office door. Dad, can we talk? I turned from my laptop. Of course, come in. But before she could even sit down, Evelyn appeared in the hallway with a mug of warm milk. There you are, sweetheart. It's late. You'll get sick staying up this long. Nora flinched. But Grandma… Come on, no more serious talks tonight. Tomorrow, okay? Nora looked at me. I nodded like a fool. She walked away. and I went back to pretending everything was fine. But the interruptions didn't stop. Every time she came to talk about Aurora, something happened. A business call, a grocery delivery, Clara needing help with school emails, and every time I saw the same thing, Nora shrinking. By week 3, she barely looked me in the eye anymore. Then came the turning point. One night I heard her crying through the wall. I knocked on her door. "Baby girl, are you okay?" "I'm just tired." "You sure that's all?" She nodded. But I could tell. There was a storm behind her eyes, one I had ignored for far too long. That weekend, Clara planned a trip to cheer Nora up. A sleepover at a friend's house, last minute. Good for her, they said. She left Friday afternoon. When she came home Saturday night, her energy was different. Not tired, determined. She walked straight into my office. "Dad, I need to tell you what happened. That day on the rooftop." I froze. "What do you mean?" "I know what really happened, and I've been trying to tell you, but they wouldn't let me." My throat went dry. "Tell me now, sweetheart." Nora sat down, took a shaky breath, and said, "It wasn't Aurora. She didn't throw the water on us. She didn't even know it was dirty." "Then what did happen?" "Aunt Clara told her to dump it." And with those words the world cracked, Nora went on. "There was a pitcher near the garden hose. Aurora thought it was just water from cleaning up after the decorations. Clara told her to help pour it out because it smelled bad and needed to go. But it didn't smell until Clara put stuff in it. She added dirt, mud. I saw her, Dad. She stirred it with a spoon. Then she brought me and Grandma outside. She told us to wear white for a photo. Said it'd be fun for Aurora's birthday. She placed us in the exact spot where the water would land. I couldn't breathe. Then she called out to Aurora. Told her to dump the pitcher quick before the smell spreads. Aurora didn't ask questions. She just did it. And the moment it hit us, Clara started screaming. Nora was crying now. I tried to tell you that night, but everyone was yelling. And then afterward, every time I tried, Grandma or Clara interrupted. They told me it would make you sad, that if I talked about Aurora, you'd get angry again. I felt sick. "Sweetheart, why didn't you push harder?" "Because they're your family, and because I wasn't sure you'd believe me." Her voice cracked. "But I saw everything, Dad. Aurora didn't do anything wrong. She was just trying to help." I couldn't speak. I had destroyed the one woman who had shown us nothing but love, and all because I believed a performance, instead of my daughter. When Nora finished speaking, the silence in my office felt heavier than anything I'd ever carried. Heavier than Ava's casket. Heavier than building a billion-dollar company from scratch. Heavier than 5 months of thinking I had done the right thing by pushing Aurora out of our lives. Because now I knew the truth. I hadn't protected my daughter. I had failed her. And I had betrayed the one person who truly loved both of us. I looked at Nora. "Thank you for telling me the truth, sweetheart." "Are you mad?" "At you? Never." "At them." I stood up. "We'll find out." I called Evelyn and Clara to the living room. Clara arrived first, phone in hand, still smiling from whatever text she had just sent. Evelyn followed, her posture as regal as ever, dressed like she was hosting a charity brunch, not like a woman who had just been exposed. "You needed us?" Clara asked. "Yes," I said quietly. "We need to talk, right now." Nora sat beside me on the couch. Calm, brave. "What's this about?" Evelyn asked. "Is everything all right?" "That depends," I replied. "Because tonight my daughter told me what really happened on Aurora's birthday." The air shifted. Clara's smile twitched. Evelyn froze mid-step. She told me about the pitcher, the dirt, the positioning, the white dress photo lie. She told me everything. No one spoke. "Do you have anything to say?" Evelyn broke first. "She's just a child. You can't expect her to understand what she saw. She understood enough to tell the truth, even when you worked for months to keep her silent." "That's ridiculous," Clara snapped. "You're going to believe a kid's version of events over your own family?" "Yes," I said, Because unlike the two of you, she hasn't lied to me, not once." Evelyn stepped forward, her tone softening like she was rehearsing it. "Daxton, we only wanted what's best for you. For Nora. That woman, Aurora, was changing everything, controlling you, distancing you from us." "She wasn't controlling me. She was loving me. She was building something real with us, and you destroyed it because you couldn't handle no longer being at the center." Clara laughed bitterly. "You're being dramatic. It was a prank, a harmless way to show you she didn't belong." "Harmless?" I growled. "You humiliated her. You scared my daughter, and you made me doubt a woman who never gave me a reason not to trust her." I stepped closer. "You used Nora. You lied to her. You manipulated her. And worst of all, you made her afraid to speak to her own father." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "We were just trying to protect you." "No, you were trying to protect your place in my life." I turned to Nora. "Go to your room, sweetheart. I'll come tuck you in soon." She nodded, stood up, and looked at Clara and Evelyn with the quiet judgment only a child can deliver. When she was gone, I faced them again. "You're both leaving. Tonight." Evelyn's mouth fell open. Clara dropped her phone. "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious. You don't live here anymore, you don't run this house, and you will not silence my daughter again." Evelyn started to cry. Clara turned red with rage. "You're choosing her over us?" "No," I said. "I'm choosing the truth. I'm choosing my daughter. And I'm choosing to become the kind of man Aurora believed I could be, before I broke her." They packed in silence. No more arguments, no more fake tears, just the quiet sound of power slipping away. When they left, I didn't look back, because I had someone else I needed to face, someone I had broken, someone I still hoped hadn't stopped believing in me. Tomorrow I would find her. Tomorrow I would ask for forgiveness. But tonight, I sat with my daughter in a home that finally felt like ours again, and I whispered the only thing that mattered. "Next time I'll listen, I promise." I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The weight of what I had done, the pain I had caused, pressed on my chest like a closing elevator. At 6 a.m., I packed a small box. The engagement ring. The Santorini tickets I never gave her. Nora's glittery, water-stained birthday card that read, "We love you, Ro," and a note, simple, honest, desperate. I finally listened. And I'm ready to hear everything I failed to ask. If you can forgive me, come back. If not, I'll spend the rest of my life earning your respect again. I found her where I knew she would be. Miles Care Pharmacy. Corner of 8th and Langston. She'd opened it 2 months after I drove her away. Built it with her own hands. Filled it with low-cost medication, free checkups, and warmth. She wasn't just thriving, she was serving. I waited until the morning rush died down. Then I stepped inside. She looked up from the counter, eyes widening. "Daxton!" Her voice caught, brittle and guarded. "Why are you here?" I placed the box on the counter. Because 5 months ago, I believed a lie, and it cost me everything. "Don't," she said quickly. "Don't say that. You chose to believe them." "I did," I nodded, "and I'll regret it for the rest of my life." We stood there, silence louder than traffic outside. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just waited. So I told her everything. About the setup. About the white dresses. About Clara's lie. About Evelyn's control. About Nora. How she'd tried to speak again and again. About how I had failed to listen. And how I had failed her worst of all. She stayed silent for a long time. Then she asked one question. "Why now?" "Because last night," I said, "my daughter finally looked me in the eyes and told me the truth. And for the first time in a long time, I actually heard her." Her eyes softened, just slightly. "And what about your mother and sister?" "Gone, out of the house, out of our lives, unless they ever learn what respect means." "And Nora?" "She wants to see you," I whispered. "She misses you more than I can put into words." I handed her the card. She opened it. Her breath caught. The glitter had smeared, but the message was still clear. "We love you. I don't expect you to forgive me," I said. But I wanted you to know the truth. And if there's even a chance we can start over, even as friends, I'll take it." She looked at the ring box, then back at me. "I don't want to be your friend, Daxton." My heart sank, until she added, "I wanted to be your wife, but not if I'm expected to compete with ghosts, manipulation, or silence." I nodded. "Then let me show you I've changed." That night she came to dinner. Nora answered the door. They stood there for a moment, not quite hugging, not quite crying. Then Nora stepped forward and said, "You didn't do anything wrong. I know that now." Aurora knelt and whispered, "I missed you so much, baby girl." And just like that, the pieces began falling back into place. Weeks passed. We didn't rush. We had dinner, walks, long conversations. We started therapy, all three of us. Aurora opened up about how much it hurt. Nora talked about her guilt. And I listened. Really listened. 3 months later, I proposed again. No grand gestures. No rooftop. No fancy cars. Just the three of us, in the kitchen, eating homemade pasta. "Aurora Miles," I said, pulling out the same ring. "Will you be the mother figure Nora already chose? The partner I should have defended the first time? The woman I promised to never silence again?" She said yes, through tears, through laughter, and through truth. We were married in a quiet garden behind her pharmacy. Nora was our flower girl and maid of honor. She said in her speech, "Family isn't just who you're born to. It's who listens to you. It's who believes you, even when the truth is inconvenient." And now, years later, I look back on that rooftop moment as both the worst day of my life and the moment that began our redemption, because I learned that love doesn't live in silence. It lives in listening. It lives in the truth, even when the truth hurts.